I am Petya Rasheva, an alumna at the Stanford LEAD program. I am talking today to Edwige Nguyen, the Managing Director of the International Banking Federation. Welcome, Edwige.
Thank you so much, Petya. I'm really grateful to be on your show.
Thank you for joining us. Edwige, would you give us a very brief overview of your career path up to the Managing Director of the International Banking Federation?
Well, I actually have been in finance my whole life. I still am being the CEO of the International Banking Federation and actually representing the banking industry worldwide. So I started in a regional bank in my own country, and then I moved through the ranks bit by bit, very consistently to where I am now. But I did many other things in my life as well.
Edwige, the topic today is the secret sauce of success. So, looking back, what do you believe has been critical for your success?
I actually think, Petya, that my path to leadership became from a very young age, because I was born in a family with very limited resources. I was the second of a family of 7. And I think that my first leadership role came when I was just 8 or 9 years old, because we had to take care of the younger kids in our family. And so I think that what came from a very young age is that persistency, that discipline, that wish to have more, that wish to grow and to do things in life. So I think persistency and, of course, studying from a very young age, that was one of the basic things in my career. But then I had to learn the hard way that it was not enough.
Yes, we also learned that hard work is essential, of course, but it is not enough to achieve a significant success. So in your experience, what has been the secret ingredient?
So what I knew from my childhood was that you had to work hard. I had a chance to study, which I did really like very much. So I studied law and finance and economics. And then I started my first job in a bank. And after a few years, I could see that even though I was working much harder than others, it were the male colleagues that received the promotion. And that was one of the first hard lessons in life and in my corporate life, is that working hard, being clever, having a lot of competencies was only 2 of the 3 things that are important. And I had to learn that actually being visible and knowing and showing what you are doing in the firm is really important. And that is how I developed that third element that I then shared with lots of women afterwards. It's the art of public relation, of visibility, of showing and contributing to the company and really making clear what you have to add.
This is very good advice, Edwige. Thank you. And you are also the chair of the European Women on Boards, which is an organization aimed at gender equity at decision-making level. Why is that important?
Actually, it's again from my childhood. I was born as a girl, obviously, and my parents actually wanted a boy. That was in their mind. A boy was more important than a girl. And all my young age, I said, but why? Why is it less important to be a girl? And I promised myself, if ever I will be in a role of impact, of influence, I'm going to do something for women, for girls. And that's a promise I kept. So whenever I managed to move through the ranks and become a manager, I started to think, what can I share with others? And so I started mentoring, also writing a book about the glass ceiling. I won a prize as Business Women of the Year more than 20 years ago. And since then, I've never stopped giving some hours of my weekly activities to other women. And of course, now that I'm the chair of European Women on Boards, I can do this in, to say so, a more impactful way, because you can weigh in on politics at the political level, talking with companies, and of course also representing women in the international scene.
And Edwige, why is impact important to you?
Yes, because of course your program, very often we talk about power, we talk about being at the top, And actually through my own career, because first you work hard and then of course you fail at some point, you hit resistance and you have to start all over again and thinking again, what is my mission? What is my drive? So you learn that there is something deeper, something which is more related to your mission, your purpose in life. And so for me, being the chair of European Women on Boards, you can actually move the needle and make sure that all the talent available, and of course women are 50% of the population, but 60% of the university students, it is so important not only for the women, but also for companies and society to value that talent and to have equity, to have diversity at the highest level. And so also on the boards and the executive committees.
And Edwige, in your experience, once you reach a position of seniority and you become the leader of leaders, what becomes different?
Yeah, I think that it's a very good question. And it's also a question that I had to go through at some point in my career, because of course, in the first half, you want to succeed, you want to increase, you want to expand your experience, you want, of course, to reach the top. And at some point, it is no longer about working harder yourself. It's not all at all about the kind of power you gain. It is about the impact, the influence. And that means that if you want to create change, if you want to contribute to sustainable change, you have to find allies. You have to find buy-in. You have to listen much more than that you talk. You have to sense the energy in your environment, see what are the conflicts, the difference of opinion, the difference of views, and actually rather be seen as the person who listens, who can be a charismatic leader, who can really create allianceships and see how you can bond between the company, between the different interests, and come to a compromise. And so I think that that's how I evolved as a leader. And so now it is more about creating a movement, creating a change, being, of course, part of the success, but actually sharing that success with your team, with your community, and of course, with the community of women that we are building as European Women on Boards.
Sounds like an inspiring mission.
Yes, and that is what drives me. It's also what gives me energy. And it's also something that a lot of women ask me, how can you combine all those things, having a full-time job and then being the chair and then adding some more on your plate? And I would say my secret sauce, to say so, is that there is a law in physics. If you want to keep going, you have to receive as much energy as you give. And so that's a very golden rule I try to comply with myself. You give, of course, you like to give, but don't forget to ask. Don't forget to receive. Don't forget to also use the energy in the room. So I am doing things that I like. So that is how I get things back and how I get energized during the day. And so you should never be tired by doing your passion, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Edwige, for this conversation and for your advice on my behalf and on behalf of my colleagues at the Stanford Lead.
Thank you so much, Petja. It has been really lovely to talk with you, and I will for sure follow your show.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.